Welcome to Dashboard Jesus, the podcast where faith meets the fast lane. Whether you're cruising through calm or navigating life's hairpin turns, we're here to help keep your eyes on the road and your heart grounded in God's Word. So buckle up. It's time to ride with a biblical perspective on the journey of life. Here's your host, Peter Heck.
In professional football, in the world of the NFL, they call it Overreaction Monday. Now, Pat McAfee and several of the other commentators and people online and writers and all of that, they call it Overreaction Monday. I'm going to explain what that phenomenon is for those of you who are not professional football watchers. That would be like, my wife continues to complain because what the NFL is doing is slowly taking over the entire week. It used to be just Sundays. Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Then, several years ago, decades ago, Monday Night Football made its appearance. So you would have the games on Sunday, and then you would have the game on Monday night. Then, when that was successful, they started early afternoon games, late afternoon games on Sunday, and then they had Monday night. Then, it was early afternoon, late afternoon, and then a Sunday night football game, followed by a Monday night football game. Then they added Thursday night NFL football, and then sometimes it's a doubleheader for Monday night. It's just, and now, I mentioned my Indianapolis Colts, now they're going to be playing early morning on Sunday because they're playing overseas to try to tap into the overseas market. So I do get her frustration that it continues to take over the entire week. And because of that, it's kind of dampened what we call Overreaction Monday because not every team plays on Sunday now. But here's what Overreaction Monday is, which will then drive me to the point that I'm making in general. It is the phenomenon that occurs when a certain fan base reads far too much into their team's victory or their team's loss the preceding Sunday. So it's Overreaction Monday because when fans wake up on Monday, after having watched their team either win or lose, they overreact to it. Almost without exception, those reactions that they have prove unfounded, they're almost always exaggerated, and ultimately they're worthless. For instance, my Colts had started off the year, 6-1, 7-1? It was 7-1. And then they lose last Sunday. And the following Monday, everybody's talking about, okay, we've got all of these problems. It's like, guys, they lost a game. Or a team wins a game after being on a losing streak and, all right, now we're building the monster. Now we're going somewhere. Actually, no, you're going to lose next week again. Overreaction Monday. People are ready to trade away their best players. We gotta gut the entire team and start all over. This team's going nowhere. That's the typical Overreaction Monday. Now here is why I'm bringing it up. In the American political universe, social political universe, we have now officially entered the overreaction phase of the recent elections. Do you know how crazy it is that I'm even spending an ounce of podcast time talking about what are largely, they're off year. It's an odd numbered year. They're not even midterm elections. Midterm elections are the congressional elections that happen 2 years after the presidential and 2 years before the next presidential. Those are typically elections that not a lot of people participate in. This isn't even that. I mean, a lot of you didn't even have an election to participate in. And if there was, it was probably a local election, maybe a mayor's race or something like that. But because we are living in a 24-hour news cycle, because our news agencies and commentators and commentariat and this whole industry that's been created are desperate for something to talk about, it's the breeding grounds for overreaction nonsense. And that's exactly what is unfolding right now. There was governor's race in Virginia. There was a governor's race in New Jersey. There was the mayoral election in New York City. And then you have local races in various places. And the ones that the media was paying attention to, the Democrats had great victories. Great victories. And so, because they had victories in those races, it's causing the MSNBC contingent to go ballistic. And they're saying, well, the Republicans were so back routine, it lasted all of 9 months, 11 months? They're not back. And then Republican losses in some of those races are causing all of the MAGA masses, Make America Great Again, the Donald Trump masses, to assume that the end times are upon us. This is all standard operating procedure for people who make a living bloviating and pontificating. Just remember that. If you are chronically online, you are going to be led to believe that the local elections and some statewide elections that took place a couple days ago, that there's some sort of bellwether for a cultural trend and wave that is going to sweep over the country and completely change everything. That's because making those kinds of wild assertions, that's what's going to get attention. And right now, that's how you make money. You got to make wild assertions. And so that's what you're getting. So don't be misled by all of that. Amid the noise, however, while everybody's talking about what this portends for the future, and the Marxist guy won in New York City, so New York is going to descend into the ninth layer of Dante's Inferno, and everything else, Donald Trump is pretty much a lame duck president now, all of these things. Amid all of the noise that you and I would do very well to just ignore, a few nuggets of data remain, and they're facts that I think, if considered carefully, can offer some genuinely instructive insights, actually useful insights. Let me give you one. Rather than obsessing over who wins what race, and they'll probably commit some crime and be ousted from office, or they'll get defeated in their primary in the next election, having not really made much of an impact or much of a difference at all. And everybody's, Mamdani is going to ruin New York City. Okay, maybe. I was in New York City this last summer. A lot of it's already been ruined. So I'm not sure how much more damage. And keep in mind, we're going to have all of this free stuff. Well, you got to pay for it somehow. And these massive tax increases, when you've already got a taxed out tax base, it's not going to turn into what he's going to run into the big problem of actually governing. So don't even worry about all of that stuff, if you want my advice. What actually matters? What are some of the nuggets of data that we can look at that actually could teach us something? Go to the Virginia election for governor. Evangelical Christians have endured all kinds of accusations from progressive Christians, from secular pundits, and they have been hammered with the idea that opposing abortion and the progressive agenda, what that actually stems from is white identity politics. It's rooted in whiteness. It's white supremacy. You've heard that. I've heard that over and over and over, that if you're voting Republican because you're pro-life or you oppose the progressive agenda, it's actually because you have, it's intrinsic in you. You've been brought up to have this natural bias towards whiteness. Here is the voting data from Virginia's gubernatorial race. White evangelical voters, 80% of white evangelical voters cast their vote in Tuesday's election for Winsome Earl Sears, a black lady. 20% of white evangelical voters cast their vote for Abigail Spanberger, a white Democrat. Okay? So, white evangelical Christians have been told they vote the way that they do because they are obsessed, and they may not even realize it, but they are obsessed with whiteness and centering whiteness. So, when I look at this data, listen, I understand it's not going to draw the attention. It's not going to be as dramatic as going out and tweeting or going out and proclaiming or going out and being in an interview on television and saying, New York City is on the cusp of descending into the 9th layer of hell. A lot more people are going to pay attention to that. But what I'm telling you is a far more useful and valuable observation. Critics have insisted for years that what is motivating white evangelical voters is not conviction. Even if they don't realize it, it's color. It's become routine for us, white evangelical voters, to see the media interpret Christian political activity through the lens of race rather than theology. They don't want to actually dig into Christian theology and say, okay, why do these Christians vote the way that they do? They don't want to talk about what the Word of God says about the value of human life. They don't want to talk about what the Word of God says is sound and appropriate and moral limits on sexual activity. They don't actually want to talk about theology. They want to talk about the lens of race. So they have been relentlessly beating the drum about the behavior of, quote, white Christian voters. And yet the data from Virginia's most recent gubernatorial race tells an entirely different story. 80% of white evangelical Christians supported Winsome Earl Sears, a black woman who ran as the Republican nominee, while about 20% voted for Abigail Spanberger, a white Democrat. So there is no escaping this obvious, simple reality. If evangelical voters were truly driven by white identity, as is so often argued by progressives and progressive Christians, people like Phil Vischer and Skye Jethani and several of them, the red letter Christians, if that was really what it was at the heart of it, those numbers would be impossible to explain. But instead, they reveal something that critics often ignore. Evangelicals, and specifically white evangelicals, tend to vote their convictions, not their complexion. What happened in Virginia is a case study in Christian voters not motivated by race, but by moral conviction. White evangelicals weren't desirous of a candidate that looked like them. What they actually wanted was one that thought like them on issues of life and family and faith and freedom. That's the kind of information that is actually useful to pull from this election. That's something that can inform the larger discussion about our political environment and what motivates our votes and what dispels myths that have been out there and have been utilized against the conscience of, and against the character, I should say, of white Christians in particular. It's been wielded effectively. But ultimately, this election in Virginia puts the lie to it. The evidence doesn't support it. So what does that mean going forward? What should we expect to see now that this has occurred? Now that there is hard data that we can point to and say, okay, explain this if white evangelical Christians were motivated by race. What should we expect to happen? I'm going to tell you right after this.
What if forgiveness could heal the wound that's haunted you? What if it's not about forgetting, but about freedom?
That man, that young man, I forgive him.
In his new book, Wounded Grace, Peter Heck cuts through the culture's counterfeit forgiveness, the kind that excuses or forgets, to reveal the real thing, the forgiveness Scripture calls us to. Forgiveness that heals hearts, restores relationships, and honors God. Wounded Grace. When the pain feels overpowering, grace still wins. Purchase yours now at peterheck.com.
Imagine a new kind of investing, a potentially life-changing way to invest that honors biblical principles, the kind of principles that you and I grew up with. Since 1994, Timothy Plan has made biblically responsible investing possible, offering mutual funds and ETFs that are filtered for biblical principles. Don't compromise your values. Invest with Timothy Plan. Ask your financial advisor or call Timothy Plan at 1-800-TIM-PLAN. Again, that's 1-800-846-7526 and discover what it means to be a biblically responsible investor. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing. Mutual funds distributed by Timothy Partners Ltd. and ETFs distributed by Foreside Fund Services LLC. As a paid testimonial, there is no guarantee of future performance and each experience will differ. Hey, welcome back to the Dashboard Jesus podcast. I'm glad to have you here. By the way, I didn't welcome you back after a 2-week hiatus. A 2-week hiatus that I did not intend to be a hiatus, and I had sent a message out to all of the paid subscribers to let them know exactly what was going down, the fact that we were in the middle of a move, and you might be able to tell that the acoustics in this room, the sound quality of this one, maybe isn't what it's been before. That's because I'm in largely an empty office and I'm making this first recording of this podcast. I'm excited about the new office studio, and I'm thrilled to be here. I'm glad to be moved in and have things at least partially set up, but there's nothing on the walls, and so as a result, you're probably getting some echoey feedback coming into the microphone. So all that will be taken care of in time, but it is good to be back with you. I do want to let you know that starting next week, and there's more information coming for our paid subscribers and the extra mile that's coming up here for them today, but I'll just tell you all right now as the general audience for this that next week is going to be the soft open, if we want to use that term, the soft open for our Dashboard Jesus Daily. Dashboard Jesus Daily is going to be about a 5-minute daily devotional Bible study minute where we look at a passage of Scripture and we apply it to our lives. It's not going to be politics and society related. It's going to be, let's be in the Word, maybe to start your day. You're walking across campus, you are driving to the coffee shop, you are at the coffee shop, and you want to avoid people, and so you want to listen to the Word. That's what this is for. Maybe you get a break at work and you want to step away from the troubles of the world. Maybe you've got a quiet moment in the morning after the kids go off to school. That's what this is for. Dashboard Jesus Daily, just giving you an opportunity to get in the Word and apply it to your life. So next week is going to be the soft opening. And the reason we're doing a soft opening, before I really start pushing subscription to this, and it's all free, by the way, courtesy of our sponsors. It's going to all be free that you can just sign up, and college kids, get your college kids to sign up for it. They need it. We all need it to be in the Word, at least partially, like we are in the world. So more details coming on all of that. I will tell you right now, I'll just say this once for right now. If you want to be part of the soft open, that includes these things being texted to you. You can have that option. There's going to be other options as well. But the easiest is if it comes straight to your phone. And so if you text the word Jesus to 866-845-5029, Jesus to 866-845-5029, And there'll be a QR code coming and all of that, which will make it easier. But if you text the word Jesus, it'll prompt you and you can sign up for the Dashboard Jesus Daily that'll come straight to your phone. So I'm excited about that, the soft open next week. Okay, let's get back to what I was saying. What do we expect now that there has been a data point that we can say, okay, clearly white evangelical voters are not the monsters, the racist monsters that they've been portrayed to be, simply trying to center whiteness, and that's really what's driving them. No, 80% of them voted for the black lady over the white lady in Virginia. Thinking people would be wise to remember that given the fact that the label white evangelicalism has become so popular in the culture, it's going to continue. It's going to continue to dominate cultural conversation. What do I think is going to happen after all of this? Very little from prominent progressive voices. They're not going to eat crow. They're not going to swallow their pride. They're not going to admit that they were wrong or they've been slandering Christians. That's not going to happen. Should there be some humility? Of course. Should there be a mea culpa? Yes, there should be. There won't be. Prominent progressive voices have spent years insisting that evangelicalism has become little more than just a political identity dressed in religious language. And so they're not going to be letting that accusation go, regardless of any evidence to the contrary. Maybe some of them, the ones with character and integrity, will acknowledge something like that and say, well, maybe we need to dial this back and rethink this. But it's by and large, people have built entire careers around this accusation alone. The Holy Post podcast and Holy Post media largely exists to trash white evangelicalism. Anthea Butler, who's the religious studies scholar that routinely argues that evangelicalism is not simply a religious group at all, but it's this racialized nationalistic movement. Yes, of course, she's going to continue saying that. I would simply say to us, ask her about what happened in Virginia. She should be asked about what just happened in Virginia. Explain that. Christian ethicist David Gushee, I don't know how to say his name. But he's gone so far as to ask whether evangelicals are willing to lay down, here's his exact quote, what has probably been a full immersion bath in Christian whiteness. I mean, he should be challenged to defend that slander in light of Earl Sears's dominating performance among that demographic, a race that she lost handily. But she dominated 80-20 white evangelicals. In other words, the white Democrat lady was more popular in her state. But white evangelicals said, we don't care, we're voting for the black lady. And that's a movement that is worried about centering their whiteness? Look, no thinking person questions or would deny that evangelicalism, now listen to this part, just like every major American institution, including academia, including the media, including the Democrat Party, evangelicalism, like everything, has wrestled with its own racial history. But to suggest that a voter who believes life begins at conception is merely protecting white privilege, that is taking theological conviction and turning it into some sort of sociological insult. It's a convenient way that progressives have dismissed moral arguments without ever engaging them because they won't win them. If you call a pro-life conviction white nationalism, that doesn't just smear millions of believers who hold that conviction, but it actually short-circuits the deeper conversation about what those convictions actually mean in the first place. If evangelicals are still rallying behind a black woman who champions their moral priorities, then this caricature is false and it needs to be revised. And those who spread it are either woefully uninformed, unacceptably uninformed, and should be dismissed for that reason, or they are intentionally deceiving in order to slander a group of people. Neither one of those are a commendation on their character. The story isn't about race. It's about belief. I'll tell you, the thing that, while everybody's overreacting to elections and trying to read tea leaves about what's going to happen in the next presidential race, as if a New York City mayoral race is going to tell us that. But whatever, let them do what they're going to do. But the Virginia example of what just happened, here's the good news. It should remind us that conviction still matters. People can try all they want to reduce the Christian faith and Christian faith in America down to demographics or down to resentment, but faith is still a stubbornly independent force in American life, and it should be. It's not going to fit neatly into partisan or racial categories, and it shouldn't. I, for one, am ready for conversations regarding evangelicalism to start focusing on understanding what motivates rather than accusing without basis. I don't expect it, but I'm ready for it, and I'll be a voice that calls for it. You should be too. Would love your thoughts. Peter@peterheck.com is the email address, peter@peterheck.com. It's great to be back with you. I'm very excited about what is to come with the Dashboard Jesus Daily and the future of Dashboard Jesus. The studio is only going to, it's only going to further that, and I'm pumped about it. I'm excited about it, and so you should be too. Get your friends signed up, dashboardjesus.net. That is the website, and I will see those of you who are paid subscribers here in just a minute on our Extra Mile. I'll see all of you for our From the Dashboard commentary tomorrow. And then, until next week, adios from the Dashboard Jesus podcast. Thanks for tuning into the Dashboard Jesus podcast. Honestly, forget just the dashboard. This old car wouldn't be operating if it wasn't for all of these good people and groups that I know personally that have helped sponsor us and keep us going. Friends like Jonathan at Hartman Family Farms, or at my bank, First Farmers Bank and Trust, my lawn care team at Truland Equipment, my insurance company, Norris Insurance, the place where I buy and lease all of my vehicles, McGonigal GM Buick, also J. Watson Creations, the jeweler I use for all the custom pieces that I buy for people that I care about, Stevens Machine, my mechanic at Terrell's Auto Service, my longtime realtor, the Wyman Group, and those fighting for family values in the public square like the Indiana Family Institute and Indiana Right to Life. Thanks to all of those great sponsors.